And there he is, Lordship, waiting patiently for me. And today we're off on a bit of a special one on the chase, and going to do a bit of a history thing as far as I know it. I can't say that I'm an expert or have a grand knowledge of things, but it's an interesting story. But we're now off on a bit of a journey, so this is going to be enjoy the music bit. So here we go. And you're back. That's great. Right. This is a lovely little area with the fords down there. But the thing I'm going to point out that you should notice is the rock. More rocks. And if you come down here, there is even more rocks. Hello. Cheers. And the rocks here were placed here in, I think, about 1870, 1880. And they came out of the ground further up the valley. And it was the result of a monumental screw up. The guy that, the company that caused the problem, mined with, hello, hey, with dynamite, and it wasn't what they thought, and the result was lots of rock. And these stones are rocks from quite deep depths out of the ground further up the valley.
The stream, it's probably 3 inches.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm doing a video, I'm sorry. You're now a superstar. These are happy little dogs, aren't they? Yeah. I am going to go through it because I'm basically a child at heart, so I've got to do it.
It's a bit like driving here. The road.
Hello. Yep, sorry. This is when there's a ford. I can't help myself. I've got to give it a go. But those rocks are quite significant to our story. And let's go and have the story unfold. As I said before, the thing to notice here is the paths, the trails are quite wide and quite substantial, and this trail in particular has been like this for some time. And the next thing I want to draw your attention to is that structure there. If you look at the bridge and you go left of the bridge going across, that is a structure, and it is dam-like. It's damn well like a dam, damn it. And that is a built dam, and it was purposely done, and it is made out of rocks. A lot of rocks. Right, now this trail, I'm going to now reveal why this trail was built. It was built for extraction. And this trail was for carts, horses and carts. This is, we're talking 1871. And this is Fairoak. The area is called Fairoak. This is Fairoak Valley. And the company that was formed was called Fairoak Mining. And Fairoak Mining came here and decided that this was a great place. There's Stony Brook down the bottom there. This was a great place to sink mine shafts. The need for coal was massive. We're talking in the 1871. Roads weren't like they are today. There's no lorries, there's no bloody petrol engines for a start, let alone diesels. The major forms of transport were horse, cart, canal, and a newfangled thing that was coming in called railways. But I think this road was an extraction road for horses and carts to get the coal out. The investment that the Fairoak company made was colossal, because all of this, before they started to sink the shafts, had to be done. And when you think about it, there had to be stables for pit ponies. They had to employ men. There's lots of all of this is manual labour. It's not the result of a JCB. This is the result of a shovel and a wheelbarrow. And the investment was quite big. But that lake down there, not natural. This is another dam, and this dam-looking structure is another structure that's built on rock, and the rock was extracted a little bit further up. So this actually is not just a man-made lake, it's a lake that's a result of a complete cock-up. And this dam-looking structure, built out of rocks, once again, I suppose out of desperate needs. So here we go on this trail. I mean, this is, it's turned into our legacy, and it's a beautiful area. It's been sculpted. Wildlife has really taken its heart. And these old extract trails, they're really good for cyclists and me and you with your IC3. Well worth a trip up to have a look. This is the biggest of the structures. Once again, it's built out of rock, and it created the top lake. Now, the company, Fairoak Mining Company, in 1871 decided that this is a good place to sink a match, but they made a fatal, disastrous error. Unbelievably, they came along and they didn't sink a borehole to test the geology. Now, under Cannock Chase, as I've said earlier, is stone, sand, coal and water. And very deep down there is a huge lake, but there are other lakes and they're nearer the surface. You can see where this is going. Fairoaks failed, and this is a classic example of failure to prepare is to prepare for failure. They failed to drop any test boreholes to see what the geology was like that they were going to sink shafts into. Oh, bless them. Anyway, they started 1872, things were getting underway, and they actually purchased a lease for 60 years, so they had great expectations. They bought the lease for the rights to the minerals under this ground for the next 60 years after 1871. They went business, obviously. I could just imagine those guys walking over here, you know, fighting their way through all the original ground and saying, where shall we put a shaft, you know, to send blokes down and dig the coal out? We'll have one over there, and let's do one on the opposite side of that little brook, Stony Brook, and have two, one this side, one that side. And they thought, well, yeah, you know, there's coal down there, all we got to do is dig down to it, no problem, it's simple, isn't it? They're doing it everywhere else on Cannock Chase, so there shouldn't be a problem here. Well, there was. They decided that their method, their digging method of choice was dynamite. They literally blew their way into the ground with dynamite. It is a way of doing it, but oh dear. Anyway, what they ran into was a layer that's not far below here of rock, solid rock. Now, what normally happens when you get a layer of rock in the ground, the water runs off and runs down the brook as it is, the Stony Brook. After here, Stony Brook isn't any further. This is where it starts. And water comes out, but the water stopped going right into the ground. It's coming out in the brook. But that rock layer also had the effect of holding water in the ground. Another man-made piece. So they decided to lob tons of dynamite and start digging. Immediately they had a water problem on a scale that was a bit whatnot. They literally picked the worst area to dig for coal on Cannock Chase, and they had a water problem. Now then, they've already invested in buildings, they've invested in manpower, they've invested in ponies and equipment, infrastructure, putting the roads in, to find they'd struck water. So the black gold coal here was a bit of a washout, actually. Now that was 1871. By 1875 it was abandoned. Problems of trying to sink a couple of shafts here. Hang on a minute. legs gone. Trying to sink shafts here was major, and it was a disaster, and no investment was for nothing. Fairoak's company didn't stop. They merely moved, I think it's about 750 meters southwest, and they sank pit number 2. This was pit number 1, failure. They sank pit number 2, and pit number 2 was at a place called Trainers Hill, I think. Over there are some slag heaps in evidence, and in 1880 they found they'd got a viable coal mine. Now, in those days, industry was demanding copious amounts of coal. Everything, the go-to material was cast iron. There were foundries all over the Black Country, there were foundries all over here, and cast iron was the go-to material, and to make cast iron in huge quantities you need huge quantities of coal. So it was black gold. They cocked up massively here, but at Trainers Hill in 1880 they found they got a viable pit, and they employed 400 workers and their families. They were housed in rows of cottages, which are, some are still there, and houses, and down by the edge of Stony Brook as it goes further down towards Rugeley. And in 1881, 10 years after the wall's up, they were producing 2,000 tons of coal a week. For that time, that was a pretty hefty amount of coal, and they sold every ounce of it. Things were going well for Fairoak's company, but 4 years later there was a depression. The Prussian War, or whatever it was in full flow, and things went bad. And in 1885, Fairoak's went into liquidation. Not all coal mine stories on Cannock Chase are a success. They managed to get 2,000 tons a week out, and things were going well, but it was short-lived, and the depression came along, and that was it. And the investment, the investment for equipment, men, livestock, infrastructure, getting the routes to the canals and the railheads, was all for naught. And all we have left now are these trails, which are good. I mean, for us, we've inherited these trails. And if you look here, a bit of geology, if you look here, see, all the stone is round. Every one is round. And just below the surface, that is what it is. Shale, round stone, and that shows that this was a river delta in prehistoric times, and the river delta rounded all the stones. Now, if you could sieve and sort them into sizes, you've got a saleable product. Big stones for gardens and small stones for road making and so on and so forth, along with a lot of sand. So there are still quarries to this day over here extracting stone and sand. No longer extracting coal, and the water has taken basically care of itself. When Fairoak's pulled out, they didn't tidy up behind them. They just pulled out and left everything as it was. Different times, different ways of doing things. but I'm afraid greed got the better of the owners, and they failed to prepare, and they certainly prepared to fail. So we now have, because of that dam structure across there, which is rock, built out of rock, may not look rock, but it is, it's solid chunks of rock. It's a water control. This shouldn't be here, it should be like it is up there, a nice little stream running through. But it was built to control things. Further down stream, there's a couple of mills and Rugeley town. You know, at the time, not a good thing to have a lot of water coming down the valley. So there we go, that's as it is now. And after that lock, there is a step. There's an overflow point there, but there is a flow point through that grid, and it goes from this level to that level. If you see and you understand, you know that that's not a natural formation at all, but it's a nice formation now, and for us it's a very pleasant walk, and it makes quite a good asset to the park. How cool! Nice little island. I think the islands are constructed for the ducks, so that they can go somewhere, get out of the water without being bothered by dogs. Good idea. In the summer, it is a lot of ducks, and there is a lot of wildlife in the area. I really wish on one of these trips I could say, look at the deer. That would be great. But once again, have a look at the width here, and it's flat, and it is a shovels and wheelbarrow job. Shafts that were sunk elsewhere on Cannock Chase, what was called the Hensford Fives pit, from about the same time, and the Littleton Colliery from about the same time, lasted right up until the 1990s. They were sunk in the right place. But this one wasn't. All the money and investment and that lease for 60 years, all for naught. Anyway, that's the story, and here we are on the Fairoak's Pools Trail. I mean, everybody calls these the Cannock Chase Valley lakes, but in actual fact they're Fairoak's. It's called, the real name is Fairoak's Pools, and you can do fishing. If you like fishing, you can do fishing. Right, the only evidence of any mining activity which was here are the dams and those stepping stones. And if you go over there, if you know what to look for, there are slag heaps. The slag heaps have sort of mellowed into the rest of the scenery. Woo! Look at what the authorities, the people have done. This is a lovely, lovely trail. Mountain bike trail.